On the second night of a back-to-back, the Toronto Raptors run out of gas against Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. Another good effort, but they come up just short. 116-108 is your final score. The Raptors record now 16-17. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Raptors Night Cap. Randy Urban alongside Sherman Hamilton, Paul Jones, and Jack Armstrong. Jack, I'm going to start with you. Guys look tired tonight to me. Just second night of a back-to-back, or what was the case? What did you see?
Oh, absolutely, Randy. I totally agree with you. And the fact that Nick Nurse used 12 players, I think that says a lot, that he was just really searching. And guys, I would say this, it's interesting. And now you start that lineup with literally your five best players, Powell, Anunoby, Siakam, VanVleet, Lowry. It changes the kind of personnel groupings and the thought process in terms of substitution pattern and how groups play together and how they function. And I think sometimes that reflects, particularly in your offense, where guys aren't where they supposed, you kind of just, it's kind of a mixed bag. And I think it's going to take a little time. Let's hope they have good health and they're able to start getting settled into more of a rotation. But I think tonight, you can see it a little bit, in spite of the fact that you started that smaller group. When you go to your bench and the bench was minus 15 tonight, what do you have coming off? And how many better players do you have to have playing with them to prop them up?
Yeah, sure. The bench didn't really give them much tonight. Why was that?
Well, again, you're adding Kyle Lowry back to the lineup. Those 13 field goal attempts that he had to come from somewhere. And we're going to come from your key guys, And even on a night where Pascal doesn't play well, there might be other opportunities, but there's a different flow with Kyle back in the lineup. And your focus is more on getting a guy like him back into flow than getting those bench guys to produce. So it's just a balanced first game back. It's one of those things I feel it'll find its right level in terms of getting those field goal attempts. And also, I think when you're taking a guy like Bembry, who was starting and he was doing some very good things, and you just kind of take those minutes away and those opportunities away, it impacts his flow as well. The shots he would get that he'd have a chance to make. So, but at the end of the day, you're not going to compromise what Kyle Lowry brings to the game to try and accommodate your bench guys. It's got to be the other way around, and they've got to figure out how to continually play around him and what he brings to this team.
Jonesy, despite all that, they were, visibly tired at times and well scouted, I thought, at times too. They were right in there at one moment in this game. They make that little run at the start the third, and then they give it right back. And even in the fourth, weren't playing that well, still stuck 6, right? So it's got to be a bit frustrating for the players, for the coaching staff in those situations.
Yeah, Randy, they did. They pushed the rock up the hill, and just when they were about to get it to the top, it rolls down on them again. You threw 2 words in there, well scouted. Miami always plays the zone against them, and they stay with it. Like Toronto might score a couple times, but Miami says in the long haul, we'll get more stops than scores. So they stay with it. And the fact that they have long athletic guys in that zone, they're able to extend the zone. And it's almost as if they say to Toronto, you know what? Throw it into the foul line area, and we'll collapse on you. And if you can take the 2 before we get there, great. So now when you do throw it in there, sometimes a guy gets it in there, and it's usually a good ball handler, a good decision maker. Maybe he rushes the shot. So now you end up with what looks like an easier shot, but it doesn't go down because time pressure. And when the ball gets kicked on the outside, you've got Iguodala, you've got Dragic, you've got these guys closing out with size, and the zone keeps pushing them further and further out. Miami does a really good job in their zone. And as you said, Randy, I think they scouted Toronto pretty well in it.
Jones, I just want to tag you because I think Iguodala at the point of that zone, I think really makes it different. Not only because his length and his quickness, but it's just his veteran smarts and just so remarkable in terms of just how great a defensive player he is. And when you go against that 1-2-2 zone, an odd front, you got to get something behind the zone because they're all out there, out top of the key, playing all that action. So you got to get stuff in the corners. You got to get stuff in the foul line area, the elbows, the dotted line, all that. And I thought Miami, to Jonesy's point, did a great job, even when you tried to get it there. Their ability to sprint there and blow it up. You know what? The Raptors shot 50% tonight, but
Yeah.
they turned it over. That's where that zone killed them. They were sloppy against it.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Offensively, who do you like in that high post against the zone? Who do you think makes the most sense to make a play there?
You know, I've said this many times. Jonesy and I have talked about this. I've said
Little guy.
I like the point guards in the middle
Yeah.
of that zone. I think it's important to have not just a playmaker, a decisive, quick playmaker. And I think when you get a Kyle or a Fred at the free throw line behind that first level of the zone, you're going to get some good action. If you have bigs cutting along the baseline, you're going to get that ball to the other side of the court if need be, or they're going to make a play for themselves in the guts of that zone. And, you know, a lot of times we like to play, well, teams like to play those bigger bodies at the free throw line because they can play high, low, and quote unquote seal over the top of the defense. I go the other way. Give me a little guy in there who's a good decision maker, who's tough, who can finish in traffic, and who can deliver the ball to the right person. That's how I see that zone being busted up.
Jonesy?
Yeah, same thing. Look, if anybody wants a lesson, I mean, I first saw it done way back in the days when, you know, Dwight Anderson did it at Kentucky. And then more famously, when Spain went zone in the 2008 Olympics, Coach K said, okay, LeBron, you're at the nail. And you've got, as Sherm said, a decisive decision, decisive, quick playmaker there that makes good decisions. And oh, by the way, LeBron happened to be 6'8". But if you put, you know, a Lowry or VanVleet in there, you've got drives. Just think about your point guard at the free throw line with two guys on the other team behind him. So I'd like to see that. Although, look, as Jack and Sherman pointed out, it's some of the other things that the Raptors need to be worried about tonight. The turnovers, the rebounding. Miami, 11 offensive rebounds, 15 points off that. You know, Toronto only had 3 offensive rebounds. The free throw line, 25-14. So all of these little things, even though Toronto shot the ball well, all of the other little things added up to beat them tonight.
You know, and some of it is the fact that, you know, when you play 5 games in 7 nights and you're on a back-to-back, in spite of the fact you throw 12 guys out there, is it about quantity or is it about quality? And when you got guys that have played a ton of minutes, 5 games in 7 days, that quality struggles a little bit. So now what do you have? And I would say that I really like where the Raptors are going, and I think they've done a really good job with their group. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again, you really miss a guy like a Serge Ibaka on a night like tonight, because he's just one of those guys that is such a professional player. He'll get you 12, 14 points. He'll hang around those elbows. He'll get a few putbacks. And when you lack that, and Siakam really struggled tonight, so, you know, you look between now and March 25th at the trade deadline or the buyout market, you know, we clearly know what the Raptors need is. The question is, can they do anything about it? I do think this is a playoff team. And I really think if they get a little help at all at that position, they could do some things in the playoffs.
Well, Sherm, how do you correct something like that with the group that you have? How do you correct getting out rebounded by 10 against a team like Miami with who has that length? Is it, you know, boxing out can only take you so far at times?
Well, yeah, but you've got to consistently do it though to see how far it can take you. And the Raptors, unfortunately, you know, you're dealing with a Bam Adebayo. He's athletic, he's got good size, he's very strong. So I thought sometimes they needed to throw a second body at him to get him out the way and just kind of take their chances with everybody else. But there were too many times where Bam, amongst 2 or 3 white jerseys trying to outjump him, he would win those battles. You can't be an athlete around Bam Adebayo. You got to get into him, move him out, and other guys have to chip in. You know, in university and college, they used to tell me as a point guard, I need to take half of a biggest body on the glass as a point guard. Big guys, they box out their guy. I need to take a half of a body every time that shot goes up. The Raptors on that level need to take 2 bodies on Bam Adebayo and get him out the way, because he really hurt them on the glass. And it's those possessions where they get the miss. There were times where they got the miss defensively. they put themselves in possession to
Yeah.
change the course of the game. You give up that second chance and sometimes third opportunity on the offensive glass, and then you're in deficit again.
Jonesy, I thought Pascal looked a bit tentative. What did you see?
Well, look, you know, you just look at the guys that he's playing against. When you think about the guys with the length up there, I'm looking at some of them now. Olenek, Adebayo, Iguodala. Like those guys are, you know, they have help the way they play their defense too. So, you know, Pascal's, for the most part, he's figured it out after a very slow start. He had a down night tonight. You know, we talked about the schedule crunch, 5 games in 7 nights. And it's something that they're going to have to get used to because the second half of the schedule was released today. And you know, there's 12 games in 20 days in March.
Mm-hmm.
In the month of February, I counted, I think 14 or 15 games in the 27 or 28 days. So they're going to have to get used to that. I mean, the schedule is going to crunch them. But look, I just think Pascal had one of those nights. He's going to have to look at the film, get in the lab, and get over it.
Hey,
So,
and, you know,
Jack, sorry, 30 seconds.
to tag what Jonesy said, the schedule's same for everybody, right? It's going to be tough for all the teams. And that's why finally getting this starting lineup together and then maybe figuring out what the second unit can do. Do you want more defense coming off the bench? You want more offense? Does a Patrick McCaw play more minutes than a Terrence Davis every night? Like those kind of things. Where does Bembry fit? You know, all those kind of things. Those are the considerations. But I think they have some positive problems. Yeah, they lack a little up front, but they do have some positive problems to work through. And I think they'll get there.
All right, guys, got to stop you there. Appreciate the chat as always. Next up for the Raptors, Friday night, 7:30 against the Houston Rockets. We'll see you then.
Thanks for watching. You can click to watch our last episode or to subscribe to the Toronto Raptors YouTube channel so you don't miss an episode.